Welcome to another installment of Analyst Hour for the 2023 season. Andrew Regan back, accompanied with, of course,
Michael Goldsmith.
let's go, Michael Goldsmith and Mike. It is needless to say, it has been a hot week in the world of ASL. Would you agree with me?
I would agree. One of the hotter weeks in ASL history.
I mean, I woke up, I believe it was Saturday morning, and received an influx of notifications. And let me tell you, it was probably the craziest morning of my entire life. So, the craziest morning of my entire life. I was getting trades about texts. I was getting texts about trades. Each roster was flipping. I mean, I think teams have completely turned upside down. If you were to ask me, 2 weeks ago who I thought the best team was, and ask them me today, I think my answer is completely switched. And the funny thing to note is that they all happened in the Eastern Conference, which is weird. So us Billies and all of our Billy fans, we're kind of safe from all this chaos. With that said, we are going to hop in with talking about, we'll break the news, we'll talk the trades, we'll catch everyone up, we'll analyze them. What I want to do is I want to just look at each trade, think of what each captain could have been thinking, and then ultimately who won and lost the trade, right? And then we have a big announcement at the end of this episode to announce a new rule that is being implemented this year. Not really a rule, but a little novelty thing to try to praise our unsung heroes in the ASL. So we can hop right into it. We do have a special guest joining us today. You know him, you love him. I played with him. I believe this will be my second season, and this will be your third, correct, Mike? With our
Yeah,
special guest.
yeah, third.
Um, he is the 2019 ASL champion. He is the 2019 ASL Finals MVP. And there he is, Mr. Ryan Cadigan. Welcome.
Lads, what's going on? It's a pleasure to be here.
Of course. Thank you for coming in, man. We appreciate your time. I'm sure you're very busy, whether on and off the court. But
Yes,
we're very happy
extremely.
to have you. Thanks for having giving us some of your time. I Mike, catch Ryan and all of our friends up. What the hell just happened in this past week?
Yeah, so I guess it all goes back to the retirements. We got to start with that. So the shocking retirements of Sean Bradshaw of the Galaxy and Sam Holland of the Spartans. And those are both longtime veterans. Sam's been here the last 4 seasons. Sean's played 5 of the 6 seasons. Both have always showed up, contributed amazing things to the ASL. So it's sad to see them go. But what it led to is just a total,
Chaos.
yeah,
Chaos.
there hadn't been an ASL trade since the 2018 summer when Colin traded Luke Pratty for Tyler Baraldi. That was the last trade. There was a trade approved during the COVID season, but that didn't happen. So it's been a while since we've seen a trade, let alone two, and a
We
former
were
captain,
spoiled.
and a
We were
former captain,
spoiled.
all that.
Yeah,
A former captain traded, but the Spartans, hats off to Nick Resendez, like GM of the year already. So we can dive more into that
Absolutely.
later. Nick Resendez
But
really.
before we hop into the main course of this episode, I would like to pay tribute to Sam Holland and Sean Bradshaw. You guys have been such a big part of our league. We've gotten so used to seeing you on at first like Fridays and then Sundays. Again, you guys have showed up. You brought your A game. We will miss you dearly. Personally speaking, would like to share my favorite Sam Holland and Sean Bradshaw moment. My favorite Sam Holland moment was watching him actually last year go toe to toe with Stephen Shaw in one of their games. It was a very close game, if you guys remember, when Stags versus the Funky Monkeys. And yeah, everyone was getting chippy. Everyone was chirpy. Maybe not every play was clean, but it was by far one of the most entertaining games I ever watched. And to see someone who is not, high regarded as a varsity basketball player step up and really go toe to toe with the ASL GOAT Stephen Shaw, it took a lot of balls, and it honestly it was really entertaining. So hats off to him for that. And my favorite Sean Bradshaw moment was actually the first year when he was a Korean King along with Evan Miller, and they were really seen as kind of like a lower tier team, and they quietly crawled into the playoffs and they kind of stuck it to everyone. And I love seeing Sean not just being known as like a defensive guy, but he really turned it on offensively as well that year. And honestly kept that going forward. And I loved seeing Sean coming into his own as a player that first season. So those are my favorite two moments. If you guys want to share some of your favorite memories with our two fallen players.
Yeah, I'll just go real quick. I think Sean Bradshaw is one of the most underrated legacies in the Andover Streetball League. He's been there forever. He always contributes on every team he's on. And he's personally someone that I never wanted to play against. And going into every season, he's been on my draft board every season. He's always someone that I'd want on my team, didn't want to play with. Favorite moment was probably when we played them Pegasus versus Swarm last season. And we were without Z. It was me, Taquizi, and MG. And Sean was just a nightmare on D. Like we were getting a little physical, and it was just he's a great competitor. And speaking of competitors, Sam Holland I think is one of the best competitors in Streetball League history. Guy can run the shit out of a Barstool account. I can tell you that too.
For real.
Yeah. And my best memory with him, I think he really helped pave the way for non-varsity captains, which is why I'm really grateful for Sam. And we had we played each other 3 games in a row when we were on the Dad Pods Express last game of the season, and then those first 2 in the playoffs. So I'm really grateful for those high competitive moments with him, and he will be missed.
Yeah, so I guess Sean, I'll start with Sean, just an iconic ASL player. You know, he's been there for 5 or 6 seasons, as I said. Always just brought so much energy on defense. You know, he whether it was on the perimeter or inside, he kind of could guard everyone in a way, even though he's not one of the taller players in the league, just because of his effort level was always there at all times. And he played for a lot of winning teams. I think he was a part of it. He was kind of the definition of consistency. He always got picked around the same spot every year. You always knew what he was going to bring, and that's what you want in the ASL, and it's kind of a rare trait to have consistency. And in terms of Sam, I mean, Sam is probably one of the biggest competitors in the league, and he always wanted it really badly. And you know, he wasn't on the right teams for playoff success, but when he was out there, he was just like, in terms of individually, he was always there, always one of the better defenders in the league, one of the better post players, which we don't have a lot of in the league. He brought and everyone loved playing with him. He was a good glue guy. So yeah, Sean and Sam will be missed. Both great ASL players that have been there for majority of this league.
And Andrew, like that kind of went perfectly, you know, the trades, and you know, kind of that was the beginning of the catalyst of all those trades there. So as a captain, I was like, oh my God, this is the most trade action I've seen in ASL history. As commissioners and players, what was going through your head when you saw those trades all in the Eastern Conference as well?
Yeah, you kind of did a great job of summarizing what I said before you came in the door. We were shielded from all this chaos, which was great. But before I answer that great question, Mike, summarize it for us.
The trades that went down. So first, Nick Resendez of the Spartans, he traded Dan Gergis for rookie Campbell Prentice, who and Campbell Prentice, as you remember, replaced Sean Bradshaw. And actually, captains were made aware before the draft that if Sean was not 100% in, so if he was not gonna be able to play, then Campbell would be his replacement. So Campbell came to the league, replaced Sean, is immediately shipped off to Connor Fu's Galaxy.
Mm-hmm.
So the Galaxy now have Connor Fu, Matt Schuerk, Campbell Prentice, Dan Gergis, and Luke Pratty. And then the Spartans weren't done yet because they shipped off Rang, who's the replacement. They chose as a replacement for Sam Holland, and then they shipped him right off to the pack for Ian Chowdhury.
Crazy.
Yeah, crazy.
A crazy trade.
Boom. All right. So to answer your question, Ryan, as a commissioner, I was loving it. I love seeing the captains. I love seeing you guys really care about this league and trying to make your team better. And also to wake up, I believe I can't remember exactly. It was like a Saturday or Sunday morning, something like that. Knowing that the night prior, these captains were getting dirty and looking to better their teams. So as a commissioner, I love it. I love to see it. As a player, yeah, it was definitely a different mentality with it. I mean, to see these teams that maybe you weren't so threatened by get exponentially better, and not only better, but different and better in different ways. So that was definitely really, it was, I wouldn't say excited, but I had to shift gears a bit now when it comes in going into the, when going into the season, I really need to shift gears with these teams. So I wouldn't say excited is the word, scared not the other, but definitely caught off guard by the mayhem that took place. Mike, you wanna answer that?
I mean, it's crazy to see players. Really, what caught my eye was just Ian Chowdhury getting traded. Because for those who don't remember, he was the GOAT. Like he was the GOAT of the ASL for the first few seasons, and he's always been a captain level talent. He still is a top talent. He fell to sixth in the draft, and then just to get traded for a free agent who Sarong's good. Don't get me wrong, Sarong is very good. He came in as a permanent replacement last year for the Funky Monkeys, and he was great as their number one offensive player. Like he's good, but just for Alex Pisacreta to ship off Ian for Sarong it was mind blowing, to be honest, for a number of reasons, which we're gonna dive into. But just that's what caught my eye. Obviously, trading Dan for Campbell was strategic for both teams, but that trade seemed very lopsided and just crazy to see talent in that regard.
Ryan, what about you?
Yeah. So I'll say this: if you're in the Eastern Conference, watch out for the Spartans. I think they just got so much better, so much so that I think they could make a run. They could go for a finals run, maybe. After the draft initially happened, I honestly didn't look too hard at the Spartans. I didn't think that they were athletic enough or had enough scoring on their team. I think Nick perfectly addressed those issues. I've played with Nick outside of ASL a couple times, and he's really special. I don't think we've seen how good he is in this league yet. I think if he turns it on, and I fully believe he will, and you bring in Ian, who is an all-time ASL vet, and who I spoke with actually before the draft, as I was kind of trying to figure out what I was going to do. And I was talking to him saying, hey, man, I think you might be slip in the draft. And he was actually cool with that. He's, however I can help the team. I understand there's a lot of guards. It's a guard heavy captain list this year. So I understand I may fall. So I think him and Nick are going to be something special. I don't know too much about Campbell. I hear he's going to be a pretty good wing though. And that's, what they need. I think the Galaxy, who did they have before Gergis?
The Galaxy?
Oh, they had Campbell.
Okay, yeah.
So they originally had Sean.
Connor clearly likes Dan, so that move didn't surprise me. It didn't move the needle too much for me. Maybe more of a team fit was kind of the move there. I think they'll be fine. I think it's going to give Luke a lot more of an opportunity as a fourth man. I think he will be in the fourth man of the year race this year for sure if he has the opportunity, which he will. And then Sarong, and then there's the pack, man. So we talk winners, losers of the trade, however you want to look at it. Alex was put in a tough spot this year. Alex was put in a tough spot. He drafted Ian, excuse me.
He drafted Ian, Arvin, and Owen Bollinger.
And you got to draft Ian there in the draft. And I understand that maybe, and clearly it wasn't the best fit for his team, but on draft night, he's sitting there at 6. You've got to take him. I think they just don't have the size, and I understand. I understand kind of what was going through Alex's head there. If you're going to be small, at least try to surround yourself with some shooters, which Sarong can do, which Ian is more of a drive guy. So it's the best with what they have, but I think they're going to face some issues this season against teams with size, kind of like ours.
Yeah, I mean, I think as we kind of highlighted already, this week was just chaos, explosion after explosion. But amongst the rubble emerges the Spartans. That is the headline of the week. The Spartans Absolutely. Have turned around. They are a whole different team.
Deservingly so, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, let's be real. 2 weeks ago, they were the laughing stock of the league. They were the, by far, in my opinion, the worst built and worst skilled team. And that's not spiting any of the players, but just the way they came together and, each player and how they're going to work together. And I thought Nick didn't have that good of a draft performance. I thought he took some players too early. That's all out the window
By the
now.
way, Andrew, can I comment on that quick of him taking players early? And this goes hand in hand with what we were talking about with Sam and John. I think Sam has earned that right to get drafted in the top half of the first round. He has his whole career. I think he's a solid first round player, and I understand people saying he might have gone a little high, but I don't buy that. I think Sam's a consistent, hardworking player, and I think he deserved to go at that point in the draft.
I'm going to disagree with you for half of your statement. I mean, I do think he's a very high quality player, but when Costa's still on the board, when Ian is still on the board, I think Sam is good, but I don't think he should get drafted over those guys. But as I was saying, let's just dive into the Galaxy and the Spartans. We're going to talk about that first. So I will read the Woj bomb. Breaking. The Galaxy have traded promising rookie Campbell Prentice to the Spartans in exchange for Dan Gurgis. I think I'll just jump right to conclusion. I think both teams won this trade. I think both teams got better. Mike, you haven't chimed in, and I know you got a great ASL brain, so I want to hear your stance on who do you think won the trade, and where do you think the captain's mindsets were at when they pulled the trigger on this trade?
Yeah, well, I think it was, Connor Fu's Galaxy needed shooting, and the Spartans needed a big to replace Sam Holland, and they kind of both got what they needed in one trade. So I think they both won. I think I haven't seen Campbell play before, so I can't really define a winner, but I think they both got what they needed, kind of like you said, because yeah, Nick lost Sam Holland. He would be the only one to be able to grab rebounds in that team, and Connor doesn't want to be the only shooter on his team. So they both got pieces to better complement their play, and I think both teams are better, and better in the long run, which is I think the West is very scary.
I think, Ryan, you touched on it perfectly. Something that's not being talked about enough is that with Dan, he is coming off of a season where he was a fourth man, and that worked perfectly for him. He got to come off the bench, light up, drop 6 points, and then sit back on the bench. He didn't put too much strain on his body, which was great because that means when he came out on the floor, he was that much more energized compared to his opponents and was able to light it up. With that said, he's now a starter, and he's going to have to put that strain on his body. And he's also going to be lined up against different competition where last year he probably was used to, and this is no spite at you guys or the other fourth man, like he's lined up against Mike and he's lined up against Tyler Baraldi, two guys who are smaller than him, where now he's going to be lined up against starters and who are used to playing the majority duration of the game and who are, in theory, more skilled. With that said, how do you think Dan is going to hold up against that new competition? And is Luke going to be able to embody his new role as probably a fourth man who's receiving more minutes than his other fourth man counterparts?
Yeah, I'll just say you touched on it perfectly, Andrew. I know Luke's been in the gym and stuff, so I think his body's going to be right this year, which is great. I think typically what we've seen in ASL history is if Dan Gurgis is your second round, your third starter, you have a pretty good team. But if he's your bench player, then you have a great team. And we saw that with Stampede last year and all of the success that they had. So I'm curious what they need. I think between Connor and Matt and their kind of athletic skill set, I think Dan's shooting will help them. But we're going to see if they have the firepower to get through, the East. They're a good conference. Like I said, I think right now the Pride is probably the team to beat. And right now, if I were to say it, it's probably the Spartans. So for me, week one, it's going to be Spartans versus Galaxy. That's the game of the week to me. I can't wait to see how that goes post-trade, and, we'll see from there.
Mike, what about you?
I think Dan Gurgis is going to be an excellent fit on the Galaxy, even in a starting role, because when you have Connor Fu and Matt Schuerk out there, Dan is going to get a ton of open shots. And the issue isn't whether he's starting or off the bench. It's even if he's matched up as a starter, that starter is going to have to help on Matt Schuerk or help on Connor Fu, or when they're probably going to have one of the deadlier pick and rolls in the league. So I think Dan, whether he's going to be in the corner, he's going to take a man off that you can't help, or you leave Dan open in the corner, that's a dangerous move. So I think Dan's going to be a perfect fit there. I mean, obviously, I think he might get picked on defense a little more, but offensively, he's going to get his shots and he's going to be just fine there. And Luke's going to help off the bench as well.
Yeah, I think the big thing with the Galaxy, you're always going to have to keep an eye on Dan because you're right. They are going to have to clog the paint, whether it's chasing a rebound or stopping a drive from Connor Fu or stopping the second chance points from Matt Short. The paint's going to be full, and whoever is responsible for guarding Dan Gerges really has to be on their A game and has to have eyes behind their head because if that pass gets out to him and he's able to put it up in an open fashion, I mean, it's dangerous. But great analysis, guys. What do you say we move on to the next? Breaking. The Pack have traded Ian Chowdhury to the Spartans in exchange for Sarang Rang Navkal.
Yeah.
What do we think? What was everyone thinking? Who won? Who lost?
Yeah, I know. I kind of talked about it earlier, so I'll keep it quick. But I think Alex was looking to make the best of his situation. He got a shooter in Sarang back, and I think Spartans got the best of their situation. They got an athletic guard that can create his own shots, and I think that will help Nick a lot. But that being said, I think both teams really benefited from it, and I'm excited to see what they do.
Mike?
Yeah, as I said earlier, I just cannot believe Alex Vesicreta gave up Ian for Sarang. It's still crazy to me. I mean, from his mindset, we'll just to be fair, it's similar to what Connor Fu was doing, where he really wanted a shooter, and him and Ian have very similar games. He's kind of in a way a better version of Ian, which is way more of a compliment of him than an insult to Ian. But and so I feel like he wanted to kind of have more well-roundedness on his team, I guess, because Arvin's not the best shooter. He was streaky last season. Alex Vesicreta is known for his driving, and Ian's kind of an inconsistent shooter. That's not what he excels at. So, and I see why he wanted to get a pure shooter like Sarang, but at the same time, Ian is just talent-wise, he's levels ahead of Sarang, and that's just how it's always been. That's not Sarang's a bad player. Sarang's still one of the better players in the ASL. Still probably a first-round talent, but not Ian's level. So I just think that was a shocking trade, and I think the Spartans came out on top.
Yeah, I'm going to be a little bit harsh on this one. I understand. Well, actually, I'll try to express this as clearly as I can. If you told me the Pack made a trade involving Ian Chowdhury, I would have immediately associated the names Nick Zelanskis or Carter Brzezinski with it. The Pack had the skill. The one thing they did not have, and I thought was going to lead to their downfall, was the size. You're right. Arvin isn't the best shooter, but we've seen Arvin really put up incredibly shooting games. So if Arvin really needs to adopt this position as a shooter and be able to play that role in the team, I really think he could, for better and for worse, but I think he could. So to see, I think Alex made a mistake here, focusing and zooming in on their disadvantage in the shooting category more so in the size category. He really doubled down on the size, and he compromised their already detrimental trait in the lack of size by getting rid of Ian and bringing in Sarang. Yes, they're a better shooting team now, and Arvin can step away from shooting, but Arvin now has to step into the big man role. 5'8" Arvin, and no spikes. 5'8" is not a short king. I do not let anyone tell you that. However, compared to his taller competition, Arvin's going to get eaten alive, and that's not his fault. And that's not Arvin's fault. You can't expect the 5'8" kid to. Arvin can play physical, and he would get rebounds more than the average 5'8" guy. But I mean, when he's going up against guys like George or Campbell or Z or Carter, it's just not going to even be a competition. Max Short, even like I think he really put Arvin in a tough position. He really did. Now they got better offensively. There's no doubt they got. Well, I shouldn't say better because Ian is such an incredible talent, but they got more.
They fit Alex's skill set better.
Yes, definitely. They spread out the skill level, and now instead of being able to only score in the paint, they can pretty much score anywhere on the floor. But it is a make it take it league. So if they're going to have to win games, they're going to have to win games simply on the fact that they're going on 8 point, 9 point runs, because I think they're really going to struggle defensively. And that's not at spite of any of their skill level defensively. It's just purely on size. I think they're going to match up incredibly poorly against these bigger size teams. And like to put Arvin in that position as your center, as your power forward, I think is going to be really hard for him. And again, that's not because I'm not saying he's not skilled enough. He's just not big enough, and that's nothing he could control. I really think that they lost this trade. Not to say that they got fleeced or anything. I understand Alex's mindset. He needed a shooter, and he got a shooter. However, was it worth compromising your already detrimental size? I would say it's not.
Yeah, agree.
It's going to be really hard. So for my vote, I think the Spartans won that trade. For the Galaxy and the Spartans trade, I'm going to say that was a wash. They both got better. Props to Nick Resendez for really getting to work, because he flipped his team around. If I were in the East, you really got to be scared of the Spartans now. And little insider information: Mike, Arvin, and I were making our final standings predictions of each team's record, and we've had to switch them twice now because of the two trades. And let's just say the Spartans moved up in our rankings, and it was hard to maneuver the teams that we thought we were going to lose to them. It was really tough, really, really tough. With that said, we can definitely segue into more of the fun part of the podcast. Unless, do any of you guys have any closing remarks surrounding those takes? Do you want to do that before we hop into it? No,
I think
that was good.
I think we covered it.
All right. This will come out on the Twitter, so if you see it now, you're being rewarded for being a loyal follower of the ASL, because it won't come out till a little bit later. But the ASL has introduced a new end of the year award this year, and he was being humble and told me not to praise him, but I will. He's sitting right with me. Ryan Cadigan actually proposed this rule to me. He suggested that this happens, and his reasoning was great, and he feels that. Well, actually, I'll get to the award and then I'll explain his reasoning. But I loved the idea. I proposed it to Michael and Arvin, and they both thought it was a great idea. So the end of the year award that we are introducing this year is the Roll Man of the Year. And what that is essentially designed for is the player basically second to his captain that offers the most value. It's essentially the draftee MVP for slang. Ryan felt as though that there was a lot of players who weren't getting the attention that they deserved because they were not necessarily, they weren't captains, so they weren't good enough to be receiving the MVP award. But he still thinks that they added a lot of value to their team and deserved to get praise for it. And I love that. And that's an opportunity to give those players the opportunity to shine and to have their face be presented on the Instagram and talked about on the podcast or tweeted about, because I thought he was exactly right. I mean, there have been so many first round, second round, or even a third round player who have added so much value to their team, but because they weren't the best defender, they weren't getting defensive player of the year. Because they weren't a rookie, they weren't getting rookie of the year. Because they haven't necessarily improved as much from the years prior, they weren't getting most improved. And obviously they weren't a captain and getting the MVP award. So I think this is a great platform for players or draftees to essentially be praised and noticed for the value that they add to their team. So thank you, Ryan, for that great idea. With that said, I think that adds in the sixth award, or maybe the fifth. I'll count. End of the year award. We have the sixth man, the most improved, the defensive player of the year, the rookie of the year, now the roll man of the year, and the MVP. So that's six.
Yep.
Guys, before the season even begins, I want to hear your predictions for each award. Mike, start us off. We'll go to Ryan, and we'll close with myself. Go.
Are we going to do all awards or one at a time and go around?
One at a time, maybe?
One at a time.
All right, so I guess start with...
Six man. Or, sorry, I apologize. Well, derp, fourth man.
Fourth man of the year. So that's going to be a competition between me Ian, Tyler Beraldi, Pete Stylos, Owen Bollinger, Nick Germano, and Stephen Troy, I guess. But that's so I think
Did you say Luke Pratty?
I think I don't know. I thought I said
Yeah,
Luke Brad.
yeah,
Okay.
he did. He
Okay.
did.
Sorry.
Yeah. I mean, I want to choose myself, but realistically, I'm gonna say Tyler Beraldi gets his first fourth man of the year. If I was a
He's been
betting man,
nominated 100 times.
he's due. If he gets the minutes, I think he's due.
Yeah, so MG, you were kind of close with it. I think the finalists are going to be you, Ian, and Luke. The reason I think that is I think both you and Ian have now been on under the same captain for a couple of years, where you kind of have an established role in the system. And I think Luke's going to have an added role in said system. I think all of you will thrive. I've got high aspirations for us this year. I know what you can do, so I'm picking MG for this year. Trying to stay unbiased, but I think it's the truth. So we're going with that.
Yeah, I think Michael's a great pick for this year. But to spice things up, I just kind of want to go through. I'm really looking for Owen Bollinger to come into his own this year. I want to see him play more confidently, defensively and offensively. And I don't really know what he has in store for us when he does that, but I know it's definitely a lot more than what we're given. And what he gives is good, but I really want to see him play more aggressive, play more with a chip on his shoulder, play with more grit. So I'm definitely looking for that. Um, with that said, I need to see Pete Stylos also get more minutes this year. I feel like he has been riddled with that peculiar injury, as well as maybe some captains who don't have been giving him enough minutes. And I know he's been training, so I'm looking for a lot of improvement in him. All things considered, the fourth man of the year typically goes to the best fourth man on a high end team. So you got to kind of, unfortunately, context matters in this. With that said, my vote is going towards Michael Goldsmith as well.
Woo!
Thank you guys.
trying to hide his smile.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Next we will do
Cool.
Rookie of the Year, and that is going to be between Alex Trottier, George Kamboris, Campbell Prentice, and I think that is it. So I think those are the
Jack
noms.
Curtin.
Jack Curtin.
What about Curtin?
Oh, Jack
Yeah.
Curtin as well. Thank you for letting me know. Mike, you have the floor.
I mean, I haven't seen Campbell or Jack play. I've probably seen George play once, but Jack's a captain level player. He's probably levels ahead of the rest of them. I forget who's the other. Oh, and Trottier's good, but yeah, Jack's a captain level player. He's probably gonna run away with this award.
Yeah, with Curtin, with Carter, and who the hell's their third man?
I'm sorry, Cole.
Team? Oh.
Cole. Yeah. So with Jack, with Carter and Cole, I you can't help but kind of compare them to Pegasus from last year. Jack, I feel like Jack and Alex. I've only played with Jack a couple times, but him and Alex are both so freaking quick, dude. And I anticipate they're going to use that pick and roll similar to how Alex did last year. So I think it's going to be Jack. I think it's just a wicked talented player, and they're going to be, in my eyes, like this year's version of Pegasus, which is a really good team that he's going to have a lot of success in carrying in. So I'm going to go with Jack, and especially if they get to the playoffs, I definitely think he deserves it.
Yeah, it's so unfortunate for those draftees who are also rookies when you're going up against a captain.
I've got a rookie winning something else, Andrew. A different rookie winning another award.
Oh, wow. It got me on my toes. Yeah, so that's going to be, unfortunately, I also will have to vote for Jack. It only makes sense. Like I said, even with the rankings this year, when we put out the power rankings, and of course, I think they were seventh. Seventh is an ugly number in a league of 8. But I think this league is so balanced and so spread out where I think the difference between the second and the seventh best team is so small, and it's crazy. And I really hope it pans out. It pans out where I'm right. And every league, or I'm sorry, every team is like 4-3, 3-4, and I love seeing that. So I just want to get that out there that when we compare these teams as lesser to their opponents, it doesn't necessarily mean they're bad. I think any team can beat any team. To steal the NFL slogan, it's any given Sunday, and I think that's going to ring true this year. So yeah, my vote's Jack. We'll hop into most improved after that. Mike, most improved. Who's it going to be?
I think the standout has to be Luke Pratty, who's completely redefined his body. So, I always said if Luke was skinny, he'd be an all-star. I wouldn't call him skinny yet, but he is putting a lot of work in the off season. So it's really Luke's award to lose. I mean, I think you could also say potentially an Owen Bollinger, as you mentioned earlier, because he really has the defense and the rebounding down. He just needs to be more comfortable offensively, and he'll be a really good player. So I think it's going to be between Owen and Luke, and I'll probably say Luke.
So I'm going to sound like a wicked homer here, and I don't know if you guys think my mentality is in the right spot, but here's how I view the award and who I think is going to win it. But my vote's going to be Andrew. And my vote's going to be Andrew because, like I said earlier, I've got high aspirations for our team. I know you guys kind of ended shorter in the postseason than you wanted last year with the Super Pandas. I think you're going to lead the league in assists. I think you're going to get nods for Depoy. I think you're going to show another level of your scoring this year. And I actually think there's going to be enough sample size for you to get that. If Luke gets an established role, I could see him doing something there. But I got full faith in Andrew, and I understand that as a starter, you have a different expectation than as a fourth man. To get that, you have to reach higher numbers, and I think you will. That's why I vote Andrew.
Well, I really appreciate that. That's very sweet. I was not expecting that. My vote, I need to see. Here's what I need. I need Pete Styles to be in the conversation. I think Pete Styles has been robbed of a lot of minutes, and I want to see him out there more. I need to see him be nodded for most improved. Luke is obviously his name is going to be brought up in the conversation a lot just because of his body transformation. But I don't want to be sold just on his body transformation. I need to see it reflect in his play, and I think I will. Might I add? Yep. I think I will. But I need to see it. I don't want him to be sitting pretty thinking he's going to get most improved. I need to see it in his play. But here's my it's not really a hot take, I don't think. But here's my undersung hero. I think most improved will go to, and it's totally up to him if he wants it or not, Nick Resendez.
I love that take.
Thank you. Yeah. We know what Nick Resendez has in store. It's all up to him if he wants to turn it on and reach into his bag. We saw what he's capable of. We had a slight flash of it last year, a little bit too late. I think he is a killer, and he has the athleticism and the mentality and the skill to put teams away with ease. And I think purely it's an individual award. It's one of the few just individual awards where you're only competing against yourself, unlike the others where like most improved, most valuable and Depoy, where you're really just where those awards really matter on who else you're playing and their other people's performance. Where this one is just simply you, and I think if he wants it, this should be Nick Resendez clean sweep.
Like it.
Now we will go into Depoy. Mike?
Yeah, so I think with Depoy, you have to really look at.
Oh, I'm sorry. Before you do this, before you say this, Ryan, you said you have a rookie winning this award. I also have a rookie winning this, or winning a award. Is your rookie winning Depoy? Because mine is.
I hate you. Yeah, it is.
It is. All right, you can go, Mike. Then Ryan, I want us to say it on three. See if it's the same one. Mike, go ahead.
Okay.
All right. I'm gonna say Matt Schuerk. Just
okay.
Very respectable take.
But with his rebounding ability, and now he's not gonna have to do everything with Connor guarding the perimeter. I think it'll just make him an even better player. So I'll just say Matt Schuerk. I'll just make it quick.
I think Vegas would also have Matt Schuerk with pretty promising odds as well.
Yeah, so I have Carter as the initial favorite, obviously. Schuerk, AJ, I have on there, but someone who I really think is going to make an impact. They have a captain who is also a guard. I anticipate this rookie is going to pick up on all of their tougher defensive assignments, and I think he could be the reason that they get to the playoffs if they make it. So, Andrew.
3, 2, 1. Alex Trout.
Alex! Yeah,
Ryan,
I played against Alex a couple times. Yeah, no, I played against Alex a couple times. He's a clamp. He's wicked athletic. And I think he's going to play like a Connor-type defensive role the year Connor won Depoy. So that's my reasoning.
I think you're completely right. I mean, that kid is everywhere, everything everywhere all at once. He can play he can guard 1 through 5. He's quick. He's tough. He's durable, and he's so good at securing defensive possessions. And he also is very competitive, where most rookies typically are kick it into a lower gear when they play in the ASL because they don't really know the rhythm. They don't know how competitive it is. Where I think, yeah, the opening tip off or the shooting for ball is definitely, it'll take him a few minutes to adjust, but only a few minutes, where it usually takes rookies a few games. So I think he's my favorite to win Depoy as well.
Love it.
Roll man of the year. I think this is I have a clear favorite, but Michael, who's your roll man of the year?
Well, so it's going to come down to realistically Matt Schuerk, Carter Brzezinski.
Anyone. First of all, it can be anyone. Michael.
Okay.
Anyone.
Okay. I'm saying
it could be you.
Yeah. That would be sick.
It's essentially the drafty MVP, whether you're the first drafty or the last. It is a drafty MVP.
Who's the MVP? Who's the best
fourth man of the year for players like me. Like we're not winning that award, but that's why it's really
not with that mentality or not.
I'm gonna pick my teammate here, Nick Zelanskis. I think I see him having a huge season as he did last year before his injury. Just probably one of the best two-way, if not the best two-way draft player or draftee in the ASL.
Yeah, so Schuerk and Z came to mind for me. I think if the award was a thing last year, I think Z would have been the overwhelming favorite. I think he's going to be the overwhelming favorite this year too. I just think he's the most consistent. He produces the most efficiently, and I think he's a captain level player. So I may be biased. I don't think I am on this one. Z will win it.
Yeah, I think it is between Ian and Z. I think people are forgetting about Ian, and he's also on a team where I think him and Nick Fresendez will work well. So he'll be able to display more. I think Ian's going to have a lot of fun this year because he doesn't have that captain pressure anymore, but he's also probably going to get the same amount of touches. So I think he'll be able to play himself freely this year, and I think he'll be great. But ultimately, I don't even think it's a debate at the end of the day. I think this is the Nick Zelanskis Award. Just from our small sample size last year, the guy took over the game. He was able to impact it on both ends of the floor, and I'm praying he brings that energy again this year, now being his teammate. So I'm really looking forward to it. But I think going into the season, I think it's between Ryan and Z, and only time will tell. That's all the time we have here today, guys. Thank you so much for joining us, Ryan. MVP, of course. Thank you.
Oh my God!
I was thinking we're missing something. I couldn't.
Keep me on my toes.
Yeah.
Mike, MVP.
Yeah, so I think it's obviously going to be one of the captains, and I think with Stephen Shaw. Well, I know, and with Stephen Shaw, he has cost at his side, so I think that's going to hurt his campaign. Connor Fu has Matt Schuerk, Ryan has Zelanskis, but someone who I think is going to have a huge season without like a star by his side is Colin. So I think Colin is going to win MVP. I think he's going to have to put that team on his back.
I love that take with my whole heart.
Yeah, it's a good pick, MG. I think Steven and Colin are the favorites. The favorites going in. I think that third finalist spot is going to come down to the captain who wants it most. But to your point, I think I was going to go Colin. I think I'm going to stick with Steven, though. He's just too consistent, and I anticipate he's going to be putting up a lot of points for them. So, and I think, honestly, that the East Conference is weaker than the West, ours. I think Steven's the favorite there, and I think he'll play with authority. So I like Steven.
For me, my three finalists are obviously going to be Steven, Colin, and the third one, call me biased, but it's my captain, Ryan Cadigan. Obviously, you two are very close friends of mine, so you know my opinions on sports, and you also know a lot of my takes when it comes to athlete praise. And you've heard my spiel 100 times on being a winner and being a killer, and the guy who can say, shut the fuck up, give me the ball, I'm going to win this game in high pressure situations. And I think a lot of being so valuable to a team is to play good situational basketball. And obviously, Colin can do that Obviously, Steven can do that, accompanied by their incredible skill. But some person who is so underrated, in my opinion, in leadership and always measling his way into a win is Ryan Cadigan. And I agree that I think having Nick Salantis by his side is going to hurt the popular vote. Well, here's Nick Salantis. Of course he's going to be good, But I think even in his absence last year, dealing with his injury and Nick Salantis being off the court, I think Ryan playing alongside Tequeezy and Michael, two undersized guards who, Michael's a fourth man. Some may view Tequeezy as a fourth man, despite being very athletic. And even though Ryan didn't win with Nick Salantis, without Nick Salantis, he kept it close in every game. He always came down to the final basket. And I think Ryan with Nick Salantis is going to be dangerous. And I think Ryan is a killer. Ryan can say, shut the fuck up, give me the ball, I'm going to win us this game. He plays great situational basketball. Ryan has also improved every season in the sense of adjusting from being a shooter to now being a paint presence, but still being able to knock down a three or two. I think he's gotten so much better at moving the ball and understanding the dynamic of a 3v3 game in the ASL setting, because his first year, he got a lot of criticism being a ball hog, where now he really incorporates all of his teammates. I think he's also an incredible leader, just like Colin and Steven are, a guy who can rally his team and tell them what to do and put in the spirit. And also, and this isn't talked about enough, when we introduced varsity captains to the ASL, there was one non-varsity guy who was able to hang out and compete with those guys, and it was Ryan Cadigan. So Ryan Cadigan, in my opinion, is in the top 3 for MVP race this year. And mark my words, I think he deserves a nom. Oh, I hope he deserves a nom at the end. And call me biased all you want, but I've been saying this for years. Even when he wasn't my captain, he always was my friend, but he wasn't always my captain. But I love that call and take. And Steven obviously is a favorite to win, but Michael, I love that call and take as well.
Let's do it. Horns up. This was a great Billy's Takeover podcast.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Any closing remarks about this crazy week we've had before we sign off?
This is going to be the craziest ASL season yet. You were talking when you were going on your note about me. Thank you. Just like how learning 3v3 ASL basketball it's so different. It's such its own league, it's its own game, and I think learning how to play it and play it well is huge. And I think everyone has learned more and more each year, which is why it gets more and more competitive. And I think a lot of people want to win this year, and they see this is a captain league with varsity players, and they see it's open for anyone to take it. And I think it's going to be awesome.
Mike?
Yeah, I think just with the trades, one thing that's really shown how competitive this season is going to be is that captains are really sacrificing playing with their friends to win.
I love, great point. I love that.
That just shows how competitive this is going to be. And not that not that anyone in the ASL dislikes each other, but obviously some kids are closer with others. But you just look at the Spartans. You have Nick Resendez, Tyler Baraldi, Campbell Prentice, and Ian Chowdhury. They've never played together. They're probably not the best of friends. Doesn't mean they still all like each other. But the point is Nick Resendez willingly made those trades, knowing that he just wants to win, and they're the best pieces to help him win, and that just shows how competitive the season is going to be. So I cannot wait.
Yeah. Like I said, I think this league is incredibly balanced this year. One thing that we haven't touched upon, that every year that championship it holds just a little bit more value than the year prior. So with this league being far the most skilled league we've ever had, but also the most spread out league, I would love to see a new champion or even a returning champion who isn't Stephen Shaw. So Stephen Shaw, you're the GOAT now, but don't get too comfortable, because if you don't win this year, and let's say Colin wins or Ryan wins,
it's anyone's conversation.
I'd be convinced of getting rid of my GOAT status. He's obviously the most talented of all time, not including Emmett, but if we're talking trophy case, and if there's another guy who gets a clean sweep, like let's say Colin wins MVP, Finals MVP, and wins this year against Steven, I don't know, man. I don't know. That's a whole conversation.
Last side note is the ASL was robbed of an Emmett versus Steven matchup. I wish that
Oh,
happened.
I know. DC took Emmett from us. It would have been
Oh,
crazy. But those are my closing
anyways,
remarks.
awesome.
This league holds a lot of value, more than last. So this is going to be a good one. It's balanced. Thank you for everyone for playing. It's going to be crazy. I'm looking forward to it. And Ryan, thank you for joining us in the booth. You were a
Lads,
natural.
appreciate you as always. Looking forward to the season.
All right, signing off, guys. Peace.
Bye.